You down that road of authorship?
It brought about a greater awareness of events surrounding my life because you can say I'm more attuned to it now.
What?
But my next book is going to be a continuation of the autobiography, whereby
He's on 76.
I'm putting more emphasis on the conditions that affected me under the system of racism, white supremacy, as it is stated by the late Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. And I also want to put emphasis on where we are headed as a people, because as I see it right now, we're on the path of destruction.
Certainly are.
It's too much going on in the world. Like you said in the commentary, cops killing blacks. I think that's an agenda. Because if you want to inflict fear on the people, you inflict them with violence, as it was during the days of slavery.
The thing about that, and I mentioned this many times, is that the death by cop, I see it as a problem that was created by the 13th Amendment. I say this often, and I don't think I say it often enough because I need more people to understand what the 13th Amendment is and what it has done to black folk. First of all, the 13th Amendment was supposedly the amendment to free the slaves. It did not free the slaves. It actually transferred slavery from the private sector to the public sector. The 13th Amendment reads, slavery shall be abolished except for punishment of crime, which means if you go to court and you're convicted of a felony, you now have been committed back into slavery, from which there is no emancipation. That means the rest of your life you are considered a slave. Now, how does that affect cops killing black folk? First of all, since slavery was not abolished, the police have the authority and the duty to stop black people to find out if, in fact, they are slaves or not. And remember, if you've been convicted of a crime, you're a slave. So what they do is, and the 13th Amendment gives the police probable cause to stop any black person, any place, any time, because of the 13th Amendment. They stop you, they want to find out if you're a runaway slave or not. And if you're not, oops, my bad. If you are, well, we have to see, first of all, if you're wanted, and secondly, did anything happen in a radius of 200 or 300 miles that we may be able to associate you with? So if you take off and run, and they just happen to shoot you and kill you, then I had probable cause to stop him, and I don't know why he ran. So I shot him. There we go.
There's a buddy there.
What's that?
You don't have to run to get shot.
They can shoot you right there with your hands up.
It's an agenda.
That's the agenda, and you're so correct about that. We talked earlier, and you were telling me about the slave plantations that we have here, and what you learned on there. And I want to, I think the one you mentioned was the Whitney.
Well, I mentioned the other two also.
Okay, well, you can talk about that as well. But this is the Whitney slave plantation. And you tell us, what did you find?
Let me start from the beginning. First,
Okay.
I went to the Laurel Plantation, and they're all in close proximity of one another, the three. Laurel Plantation, they gave a pretty good account of how the conditions were during slavery on the plantation. But it was the Whitney Plantation that gave, in my opinion, the best interpretation of how the conditions that the slaves were under. I don't want to say too much about it, but I encourage everybody to go to the Whitney Plantation if you want to find out the conditions that our ancestors were under. I will say, let me say one thing about it though. One thing they on the tour, you pay $20 for the tour. Unless you're over 65, you pay $15. One thing they taught us was that the life expectancy of any slave on that plantation, no matter what his age was, considering from the youth up to the elders, was 10 years. Because of the conditions that they worked on this. It's a sugar plantation, which I think was worse than the cotton plantations.
Okay.
Because when it was time to harvest, once they start cutting that sugar cane, you had to hurry up and complete the job because it spoiled rather quickly.
Yeah.
If you got hurt out there in the field by this sharp machete, someone might accidentally cut you, might sever part of your arm. They can't stop production. They just leave it there. They don't have time to bring you to the plantation's house, the big house, so you can be treated. They would leave you out there in the field to die.
Wow.
The slaves were insured by companies such as Lloyd's of London, and another one was American General, I think it was. So if something happened to the slaves, the slave master was reimbursed. So we were expendable. Expendable. It didn't matter. So harsh conditions. And during the harvest time, they worked around the clock, even in the dark, the rain, or whatever. They had to get that sugar cane in and processed. The other plantation I went to was Oak Alley. And to me, that was like a watered-down version for the tourists. It didn't touch at all upon the truth conditions of the
brutality.
Right, yeah. You have some photos on there, too.
Yeah, he was showing while you were talking.
Okay.
We're going to run through some of them now. You want to mention anything?
Okay, this was in the temple, the church. This was the first stop we went, and where they separate us into groups. And from there we left out and took a tour of the plantation. But he gave us a talk, a lecture in the temple, which was built by slaves. So,
what is this?
Those are two of the slave quarters. We were able to tour one of them. There was a bed in there that they showed us was the typical bed that the slaves had. It was just like on a piece of plywood with a feathery type mattress on it. Then you touch it, it was harsh conditions to sleep under. Those vats in the front,
yes.
This is where they processed the sugar cane. They would fill it up and stir it up until it became liquefied. And oftentimes, heavy as that vat is, it would tilt over and the slaves might get scalded and burned. They just pushed them on the side, let somebody else get there and continue processing that sugar cane.
Wow.
Like boiling water falling on you.
Well, it was worse than boiling water,
Right.
because that would stick.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like, what about this slide here?
That's in the church also. These are statues that they erected to commemorate the young slaves that were on the plantation.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Even after death, they've gone and put up figures to take the place, and they're still making money off of slaves.
One thing the tour guide told us, and you want to have a picture of this, they punished the slaves. They would chop the head off, put it in front of the slave quarters so everybody could see. They would call out all of the slaves to come witness them punishing a slave that may have tried to run away or whatever. They would cut his head off and stick it in the dirt. When they got so many, they would put them along the levee on the river, on posts. Going along the levee of the river, you would see heads of slaves.
This one, show us that box again. Tell us about this.
The box, this was brought into the plantation. They didn't actually use this as a jail on the plantation. They brought it in. It was at a place where they would keep the slaves until they were ready to ship them to the plantation. They would put them in this iron box. If it's 95 degrees out there, you can imagine with the temperature
50 in there.
Yeah, and they stayed inside of that box the whole time. Sometimes they would be in there for over a month.
You know, it's funny, you mentioned about it was a holding cell or holding pen until they would bring them up the river parishes to the plantation.
Correct.
And, you know, I did some research many years ago, and I come to understand the origin of the second line. Second line comes from that particular scenario when they would go to New Orleans, purchase the slaves, or they bringing them back. They would always take a group of slaves that was already on the plantation, and they had instruments. They would bring them down so it would calm the newly acquired slaves, and marching them back with music, with the rope going from the front to the back. They were tied to that rope. And do you know, almost every Sunday here in New Orleans, we celebrate that reenactment. We flock out to that.
True.
And most of us have no idea what that is remnant of.
True. What
that represents.
And if you follow the second line, you'll see a rope.
Yes.
That they use to separate, to keep the people from getting in the way. But
yes.
It's still that symbolic rope.
Yes. And I just ask myself, why is it we do not know that we are reenacting such a hideous behavior as taking slaves that were recently purchased up the river parishes?
Well, that's because they don't know.
I know.
But they're looking at it from another perspective. It's a celebration of life. Because when I see a second line coming down the street, I see Africa. I see my people dancing. Because we got so much stress. I don't think there's a black family in that second line that's not affected by drugs.
Right.
They have horrible stories they can tell. And when I see them dancing, this is like a form of healing for them. For us, really. And I don't want to say them like I'm excluding myself. But it's healing. So it's two perspectives that you can
draw from that.
Right.
You know, in the West Indies and the islands, they have for New Year's what they call the Jean Canoe.
Correct.
And that's similar to a combination of second line and Mardi Gras.
True.
You know, and I don't know how many people here really know that they have a celebration in the West Indies that's so close to what we do here in New Orleans almost every Sunday.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So we're going to continue on. Is there anything else that you want to get on about the? Do you call it what this is?
No.
Okay.
I didn't see that.
Is there anything else that you want to bring up about the plantation visit?
Just to reemphasize the people, go to the Whitney plantation.
And let me also add to that, because LSU has a plantation right outside of Baton Rouge. Actually, it's on this side of Baton Rouge. You pass it before you get to the Louisiana State Museum.
I've never been there.
Oh my goodness. They have a lot of artifacts from the slave plantations. But they have slave quarters right on the premises. And you can, they're in rows. You can walk down and look inside little small houses.
Mm-hmm.
There was no comfort and under any circumstances that slaves had.
And they had more than one family
living in them.
That's
right. Yeah, you're right. So I would also encourage them to go to the Louisiana State outside of Baton Rouge, because between the two, the Whitney or any of the other ones that they go to, but as you said, you felt the Whitney was the most educational of the ones that are around here. And then for them to go to the Louisiana State Museum that shows plantation life, and I think they would learn a whole lot too. And you know something, that's something that we don't stress and press, and that's the knowledge and educational factor that is available when we check out these things. Because generally when we go there, we're going for entertainment, for recreation. And we don't get into the nuts and bolts about what it is, because what we're doing is we're going to see how we had been treated many years ago. We can't relate to slavery because we don't think that much about it. Oh, the youngsters tell you that was in the past, it's over, we'd get over it.
True.
Before we get into the next section, I'm going to go ahead and let the viewers know that we're going to open up the telephone lines, and we'll start taking calls if they want to get in on the conversation, because we have the fastest hour in television, and I don't want it to get around. Go ahead.
Let me say one more thing in reference to the plantation. When I left there, I felt like every young person that's thinking about doing harm to somebody else, you may have a different outlook on it, or view, after you see what your ancestors went through.
Yes.
I would love to have taken all the brothers I see standing on the corner and said, man, come with me, man. We're going to this plantation. I want you to see something.
The other part of that is they need to be able to compare what happened then as to what's happening right now. You go up to Angola and see if you don't see a plantation fully operational.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
True.
It's over
True.
there. I know it's over there.
It's true.
We're going to now divert our time and attention to something, I guess, more positive. You went on a trip last year, and I want you to share with our viewers what it was that you experienced and what you learned going to Yosemite National Park.
I'm smiling because I'm thinking about the beauty of the place and how I wound up at the park. I was supposed to go on my first journey out west, but I didn't make it to as far as California. I went to Colorado, Utah, up in the mountains, Zion National Park, Bryce Canyon, and a couple others. But I didn't make it as far as California, and I returned to New Orleans with the intent of going east on my next journey that same summer, I wanted to go return to the Smoky Mountains. But I had to get to Yosemite. So I instead of going east, I decided to go back out west, and I went up to Yosemite. And when I got there, and I looked around, and I think tears swelled up in my eyes from the beauty. It was like surrounded by these great, massive mountains. These are some, this is what I'm talking about. But it was just overwhelming. Then I went into this museum after seeing all this beauty. I went into a museum in Yosemite. And the first, what I encountered was this Native American woman sitting there. And I could see she was working on some crafts. She was dressed in her native attire. And she was, at the time when I saw her, she was just sitting still like she was taking a break. She wasn't even moving. I thought it was a statue at first. And then when she moved, I walked over to her, I said, oh, when I first saw you, I thought you were a statue. But you're a person. And the look she gave me was like, she looked at me with those sad eyes like, I don't really want to be here doing this. This is a job I'm doing, dressed like this, and to please these European people. She didn't have to say a word. I just saw it in her expression. So I just acknowledged her and I just went about my business. And I started reading the signs that was on the wall. It was some big signs about the width of this table, about like this, on the walls going around the museum. And I read what was on the signs. They were talking about the Yosemite, how Ansel Adams, the famous photographer, just practically lived up in the mountains filming it. But the last one I got to, and I was surprised, they talked about the conditions that the Native Americans were forced, they were living there in Yosemite, in the valley, and the Europeans came and drove them out. The ones that didn't want to leave, they killed them, and they said it was a mass number that was slaughtered because they wanted that for themselves. I was surprised to see that they had this, where people could see such brutal history that was inflicted upon these Native Americans.
And unfortunately, that's the same old story, time after time, in the European. They come in as your friend, they learn your ways, then they exterminate you. I was on Chuck Perkins' show today, and he had asked me something, and I referred to white folks as being devils, and he was shocked. Why do you call them devils? I said, well, don't get me wrong. If you can use documented history and show me anywhere in history where they haven't been barbaric, savage, annihilating people, starving people out, taking their land, then I'll retract it. But my research tells me that they have the behavior of the devil.
Can't argue with you. Next week is a celebration of Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, what are they celebrating? The mass murder of black and brown people. That's really what they're celebrating.
I would say to anybody out there in the viewing audience, do your research on Christopher Columbus. It's not pretty.
Here's a man that's being honored for being lost. He supposedly discovered a land where you had literally hundreds of thousands of people living on. He discovered it, and he thought he was going to India, so he called them Indians. So you realize how far off he was?
But not only that, when they landed, I hate the word India.
Yes,
the Native Americans taught them how to survive through the winter.
Yes.
They turned around and started killing them.
Yeah.
After they learned how to survive. They just, it was on. Not only in America, but a lot of people don't know, but Christopher Columbus went all through the Caribbean, wherever he went. He slaughtered the natives there. The Arawak Indians and natives in Jamaica,
yes,
Barbados, all these places, he wiped them out.
One thing that I like to tell the story about the Maroons in Jamaica. They declared war on the British and beat them. We don't hear anything about that in history in this country.
No.
But the Maroons was made up of runaway slaves and castaway slaves. Castaway slave was one who was either sick, he's unmanageable, meaning they cannot tame him. So they run him off to the hills. And after couple of years or so, there was enough of them that gotten together until they started coming in and striking back. And the interesting thing I enjoyed about the story was when the British surrendered, they went to have this formal surrendering process, and the leader, they called him Captain Kojo, told them he didn't know anything about treaties, he didn't know anything about all that right now. He said the only thing he knows is, I know send, you know come. Period. And that's the way it was for years. And even till today, there is a second nation that's still recognized, a sovereign nation, on the island of Jamaica. I had an opportunity to visit the cockpit area where the Maroons are, and boy, I'm telling you, it was truly like heaven. Truly like heaven.
I went up there too.
You went up there? Well, oh yes, I'm telling you, it's beautiful up there.
It's far different from the rest of the island.
Oh my goodness, like night and day.
Yeah. Europeans are afraid to go there.
I mean, well, that's a good thing. And let's hope we can keep them out of there. But you know how they are. They'll find a way to get up in there somehow.
Yeah.
But getting back to Yosemite, I'm sorry, we got off the track. Tell us more about Yosemite.
That was really the gist of it, except for the beauty of it.
See?
Yeah, this was one of the waterfalls. I don't know which one that is, but when I was there, it was during a drought. So if this was the waterfall I saw, it was a trickle coming down because of the drought. It wasn't anything like that. And some of the creeks, they were dried up. You can just walk on the stones in the creek. There's no water at all.
Wow.
That was during the drought. And from what I understand, the drought is still going on.
Yeah, that's what I understand. It's still going on out there. But you know, they're still having those what they call wildfires. And and that's because of the drought that's going on over there.
Yeah.
So, this is my favorite here, sunset.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. I've had an opportunity, I've never been to Yosemite, but I've had an opportunity to travel through the West. And my goodness, I mean, I was in Colorado, Utah, Wyoming. And I mean, I was in places that was so high, the clouds were underneath you.
True.
You know, that was an experience for me. But you saw a lot of this. There's the mountains. You saw a lot of mountains over
I
there.
think that's El Capitan. The one towards a little bit off from the center to the right. It looks like El Capitan. I went over. I had to touch that. I just put my hands on it.
Had to put your hand on it, huh? Let me ask you this for our viewers. First of all, what motivated you to want to go and see this? And secondly, what did you bring away from all of this experience that you had?
You mean in Yosemite?
In Yosemite, yes.
What motivated me to go, I did a lot of reading on this photographer, Ansel Adams. You know, he went there with this big 4x5 box camera, and he was taking these great photos of the area.
And we're talking black and white.
Yeah, but beautiful work. And he talked about Yosemite, and I just had to go see for myself because I'm an avid photographer, just as a hobby. But I love it.
Yeah, that's interesting because I'm a hobbyist of photography as well, and have been a long time. I can remember when we went from black and white to color. So that tells you how long it's been.
But I still love black and white.
Yeah, I do too.
I shoot both, but black and white, it used to be cheaper than color.
Right.
The processing, but
now it's more.
A bit more.
Yeah, they charge you more for black and white. I know. That's interesting.
But to show you how the progress, I don't want to get
Yeah, go ahead. Share it with us.
The progress that we're making in these fields. Now people are getting away from film. It's digital. Everything is digital now. But I'm still analog.
Still, okay.
I shoot film. I tell people, much as I love photography, if they stop selling film, I would give it up.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got to make a confession. I've gone digital, and I love it. I love it. I'm gonna tell you. I'm not gonna steer you wrong. There's so much that I can do with it on the computer.
That's not photography to me.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm exploring a new avenue here.
It's true. It's progress.
I've been in the dark rooms. I've dealt with those chemicals, and I'm gonna tell you that was nothing I felt was pleasant.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, let me put it this way. I didn't like the smell of the chemical. I didn't like having the timing. I mean, because if you missed the time, you were in trouble. It was gone.
That's the beauty of it.
That's the art of it, But I don't know. I'm spoiled now. Do it on the computer and bit bam. I'm good.
Well, I don't have the dark room, but I take it to a professional lab. Have my work done. I just don't have the space and the time for it.
Yeah, I know what that, and it's always been, and it continues to be. When you're going through the darkroom process, it's expensive.
Yeah,
it's truly expensive. I'm sure it's got to be.
It's more expensive
now.
In the process.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't mind. One other thing I wanted to bring up was this issue of standing for the anthem.
Oh, yes.
A lot of people are not aware. I want to bring something out pertaining to that. A lot of people are not aware that there are 4 voices to the national anthem.
That's right.
If I can bring it up. Saying up. And anyway, the third verse, they took the first verse and made a song out of it. And this is where the national anthem came into play. But the third verse, you talk about the slaves. If you're running away, you're not going to get away. Something, I forget the exact words. I have it on here, but it's not coming up. But it talked about the slaves in the anthem.
Yeah.
So I come to the conclusion, and a lot of people are not going to agree with this. I don't care, but I have to say it. That song wasn't written for us, because at the time when it was written, we weren't human, according to the slave master. We were property.
Mm-hmm.
So they talk about freedom and this and that. They weren't talking about us.
No. The same way with the U.S. Constitution.
Same thing.
That wasn't talking about us.
Mm-hmm.
We were property.
Property.
We were nowhere in We the People. Nowhere.
Mm-mm.
To prove it, they had to add amendments to filter us in. So We the People ain't us.
No.
We've been under the disillusionment that we're part of the Constitution. Only part that we're in there is the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. Everything else is not for us.
That is so true. But there's other things that's going on that I'm not too thrilled about. Like, I hate to say her name, but I'm going to say the name.
Go ahead.
Morgan Freeman. He's saying he's not an African American because he wasn't born in Africa. So therefore, he doesn't consider himself an African American. And he also said, racism, if you don't talk about it, it won't exist. So my question is, if we don't talk about politics, does that mean it won't exist?
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, Morgan Freeman has been a very good house nigger all his life. And when you pay tribute to your master, then you talk like Morgan Freeman. So, a long time ago they said, my grandfather always used to say, you can't expect more from a hog but a grunt. So in Morgan Freeman's case, you can't expect more from a house nigger than an Uncle Tom, period. My brother, we have the fastest hour in television, and I want to tell you that I certainly appreciate you coming and spending time with me. We talked earlier this evening, and you pointed out some very interesting things, and next month I'm inviting you back because we want to talk about some very important things about Africa, our history, and our current people, and what they've done and what they're doing. So next month, we're going to be looking for you to return, and we're going to do another series on African people and where we are and where we should be going as a people, that is part of but detached from Africa. So I'll be looking forward for us to get together and to do that. And hopefully our people will enjoy that as much as I'm sure they have enjoyed today. Do you have any parting words for us?
I would like to say, I go canoeing a lot in the wilderness, right? And when I'm stressed out, I go out in the wilderness. I can go out there for a few hours and I come back rejuvenated. I would encourage people to get back to nature.
Back to nature, yes.
You can't go into the wilderness, go to the park.
Yeah.
Spend some time
around
to
nature.
get this stress off us because we got stress on us.
I know. My brother, hate to cut you there, but we've got to go. The clock on the wall says that's all, y'all.
That's it already?
Yeah, already. But I want to thank you out there for being with us, and by all means, remember, stay involved.
He ain't even had no time to do the
Stay involved, by all means. But by all means, stay committed. Uhuru Sasa Ungawa.
Look at Nigel. Look at Nigel. Should have took the picture of that.
Make the moves with the music we've been blessed with. We use it to keep communities connected through harmonies.
Oh, I can replay it and snapshot it after this.
Our foremothers invested.
You know, I can replay it and then snapshot it. I can pause it and snapshot it with his hand up like that. Can't let me do that.
Come on, listen.
To view this show on web, go to that website. It's gonna be on the website.
Yes. W.C. Jones. And you're doing all this recording.
Live replay.
I want to get a picture of that website. Get a picture of the website.
It's all on there. We talk about Black history every time.
Let us march on.
They're trying to get the black people to stop all these killing. All the young black men dying and killing the drugs and all that. Police taking advantage of us and all that. They want us to come together and stop all this black on black crime. The love one. The love one another. I didn't know you still recording. They want us to love one another.